start with page templates. So page templates are quite useful because they help you control the spacing around your headings, and they help you control what your document actually looks like. Okay, now you can save these as templates, which we'll have a quick look at. I don't tend to save them as a template. I just tend to set it as my default, and then every document I open in Microsoft Word on my computer uses that template. That's the caveat. If you're working on more than one computer, you're going to have to do this more than one time. It's not a cloud-based thing, it's local to the computer. So if you don't always work on your own one computer, you probably will have to set this template up every single time. So one of the things that I did, which I'm going to recommend that you all do, is write down what your page template is. Write down what your style is that you've decided on. What font are you going to use for this PhD? What size font? What kinds of spacing have you decided on? So when you set up your page template, take a screenshot of it and save it somewhere in the cloud so that you have access to it, or just write it down like, this is my style for my document. Okay, so you're going to come here at the top. So you're not now working in this part of Word. You're working along the top bar where it says File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, Tools, Table, Windows, Help. Okay, so what you're going to click on is Format. And this little pop-down menu will appear. So you've got font, text effects, paragraph, document, bullet points and numbering, etc., etc. It's all sorts of different kinds of formatting options. We're interested in the paragraph option. So we're going to click on that, and this box will open up. Okay, so this is my template for this document. So I'm going to make some changes to it so that you can see how this works. So essentially, when you complete a document, when you hand in something that has to be read by an examiner or sent to a journal, you want it to be full justified. Full justified means it's lined up the text with both of the margins, left and right. Left justified obviously means it's only lined up the text with the left margin. So that's when you see that text, so it doesn't all end beautifully in line. And right justified, obviously, we know from writing letters, and you have to move your address over to the one side and have the other person's address on the other side. Right justified just means it aligns everything with the right-hand margin. And then center, obviously, it aligns with the center margin. So I have it justified, and my outline level is body text. That should be your default. You don't have to change that. Body text just basically means it's not headings. It's not different kinds of levels that you've created. It's just your basic text. Okay. Now, if you are using a hard return between your paragraphs, so essentially what you're doing is you're separating your paragraphs by quite a big space, then you don't necessarily need to use indentations. But if you're not doing that, if you want to actually indicate a new paragraph with an indentation, which often happens in journal articles, what you can do is you can come here to Special, and you can say you want a first line indent, and it should tell you 1.27 centimeters because that's the default. If you want it to be a little bit less, you can change that. So you can say, actually, I just want it to be 1.2, and watch the little box at the bottom. As you change this, it'll show you a sample. So if you say, I only want half a centimeter, it doesn't really look like much of an indent. Like visually, it doesn't really look like a new paragraph. So maybe you actually want it to be a little bit bigger than that, maybe just a centimeter. Or actually, yeah, maybe I just want it to be 1.27 like the default. It doesn't count up in individual numbers, so you have to go in and type in the 1.27. Okay, right. Then down here, the spacing basically is spacing before and after headings, right? So 6 points is quite a nice space. If you look here, that's 6 points. Okay, 0 points, 12 points is quite a lot more, and 0 points is nothing. It's like right on top there. So 6 points just gives you a little bit of white text. 1.5 line spacing is pretty standard. You can do double line spacing if you want to. I would not go less than 1.15. So one of the things you can do is you can say multiple, and then you can change this to 1.15, which just gives you a little bit more space. Okay, but I'm not going to do that because I want 1.5 line spacing, so I'm going to change that. Right. Now, if I say OK, then it should rework my document so that my document is now follows this page template. Okay, so it was pretty much what I decided that it was going to be. I've got my indents, I've got my white space around my headings. So I'm pretty happy with that. I can scroll through it and have a look and think, do I like that page template? Do I like the spacing that I've created around the headings? Yes, I do. If I don't like it, I can come back here to paragraph and I can rework it. What I can do here also, of course, is, which I forgot to do, is to say set as default. If you set it as default, it means that every single document, or only this document, you can decide, will be based on this. So if it says, do you want to set the default alignment, indentation, and spacing of paragraphs for this document only, or all documents? And this will become your normal template. So let's say you're going to say all documents because you want all of your chapters to look like this. In my case, I'm only going to, I'll just pretend that this is a PhD chapter. Okay, now look, it's changed things. It's moved it a little bit, right? Because before I had 6-point line spacing, and now I have 12. But now I think that looks a little bit funny, to be perfectly honest with you. Also, it's done some funny things with my tabs because I don't want every single line to start tabbed. My headings don't need to be tabbed, just the first indent of each paragraph. But this is the thing about Word. Word doesn't read your document and think, oh, that's a heading. I don't need to worry about that. It sees everything as starting on its own line. So every single first line, Word will indent. So you still will have to go through it and think that I don't want a first line indent here. I want it to start there. So you can still go back and manually change your document. And that's again where that trick that I showed you, looking at multiple pages, that really helps because you can see those kinds of anomalies and you can fix them. Okay, now, one of the things you will have seen in the version I've just shown you, you might have noticed that the footnote got split between this page and the next page. And those of you who are using footnotes might have noticed that sometimes this happens. Half your footnote is on page 1 and the other half of your footnote is on page 2. So the way to fix that is to come back to format and paragraph and click on line and page breaks. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that keep with next and keep lines together are both ticked in addition to widow and orphan control, which helps you actually keep your footnotes all together. So it will reformat the pages so that your footnotes all stay together, even if it has to change the way that your document is paginated or laid out. And again, you set as default and you say all documents based on the normal templates. And then any other footnotes that you add, it will make sure that it keeps them all together. Right, so that's page template.